Comentarista premiada, Cosima Dannoritzer sempre se interessou pelo impacto da tecnologia sobre nossas vidas. Ela mobilizou plateias em todo o mundo com filmes como Comprar, Jogar Fora, Comprar, a história secreta da obsolescência programada, de 2010, e a tragédia do lixo eletrônico, de 2014. Em seu mais recente filme, ela se volta a uma de nossas maiores riquezas, o tempo. Do faça você mesmo nos aeroportos ao controle de cada minuto dos operários de uma fábrica, passando pela indústria da atenção das redes sociais, Cosima nos revela como nosso tempo é controlado e monetizado por empresas em todo o mundo. Ela conversou conosco sobre Ladrões do Tempo e começou contando como surgiu a ideia de documentar algo tão impalpável, mas crucial. Confira.
I remember one moment was always like the airport. You know, you get to the airport and you've spent time at home booking your ticket online, and then you printed it, and maybe you ran out of ink, so you had to go and buy ink. And you know, then you get to the airport, and then you have to queue and check in your own luggage and put your own luggage tag on. And I remember sort of thinking, well, I'm doing all the work. You know, somebody used to do this, and somebody got paid for that, you know, a while ago. And they actually have a name for the consumer. They call us partial employees. So they're actually factoring us in. I think there's a sort of moment when I decided we're going to take the production this far, and then from here the consumer takes over. So in a way, we actually finish the product. You know, so we might put a piece of furniture together. We might print something out. We kind of do the last step, but on the other hand, it's ironic because we're kind of stealing someone's job and they're stealing our time because I'm doing this for free and I'm actually probably paying for the product at that moment. There's a scene in the film where we're interviewing a Spanish politician, and I remember I learned so much from him. He's called Fabian Mojadano, and he's got this idea that free time is a democratic right, because it's not only if you're really busy that you go out less or something. That's one thing which is already important, but you don't have time to meet up because if you work every evening really late, then you're not going to go out and maybe meet up with other people and reflect on this. You know, you don't have time to read the newspaper. I mean, you end up being a less social and a less political being because you don't have time, and that's a dimension that's important, and that's something that he sort of feels we actually have a right to. And I was sort of thinking, actually, yeah, that should be a right just as much as education and healthcare, because if we can't be with each other and also think, what do we want to do with our time, with our lives? And it's essential, but of course, if we work long hours, that gets cut back all the time. Especially if, you know, for women, if they come home after working and then they have to do all sorts of other things. And so he actually, in his interview, then summed it up saying, this is actually about democracy for me. And I thought, well, I'd never thought about that. That's really, really interesting and really important. And in a way, we think we work more, we can earn more, then we can buy more. That's going to make us happier. But of course, that's not the only thing. And time and money is not always interchangeable that way, one to one.
I really like the idea that you brought us, that power and relationships of power have everything to do with time. You know, how did he get in your film like that?
Yeah, that was a point that was made by Robert Levine in the film, who's a great expert on time, and he's lived in lots of different countries, including in Brazil. And he sort of said it's about power, because as soon as you start paying people by the hour, it's sort of who does that hour belong to? Suddenly it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to somebody else. So they then can say, I want you to do this during that time, you know, so you don't control your time anymore. And if you have like huge amounts of time that belongs to somebody else, you can really put them through hell. And it's got to the stage where, you know, a lot of companies, people are not allowed lunch breaks that are long enough. There's companies where they're not allowed to go to the toilet. And that's really a very, very extreme form of time control. This started with people trying to be more efficient and trying to get more organized. And there's something to be said about time control and teamwork. You know, we're meeting today because even across time zones, we've agreed on a time. So that's a good thing. But sometimes it's just being taken too far.
There's this attention industry, social media, you know, like there's a paradox on it, isn't it? Like we are obsessed, you know, about saving time. But at the same time, we are losing too much time on social media.
And of course, on social networks, I guess we're not on there because we feel like we're slaves to the social network. They're offering us something as well. So it's a funny sort of exchange, but we're also sort of helping to build all these huge databases. So the idea is really to get us addicted, to get us hooked in. So, which is why, they call it the attention economy, but they also call it the eyeball economy, because they want our eyeballs on that particular ad at that moment.
Do you think that our perspective and perception of time has changed during the pandemic?
So I think it's an ongoing process, which is just kind of getting a lot of people to question their own way of life, from what's worth doing, what do we miss most, what would I do if I could go out, even though I'm supposed to stay at home right now, and how do I structure my day, how do I motivate myself, what is my time worth to me? Why does it run away? Suddenly there's a sort of perception that time goes really fast, but then the day seems like the same because we don't change the environment as often, because we can't go out as much. So I think it's a learning process. And I think at the bottom of all is the question really what our time is worth to us in the widest possible sense of the word. Who do I want to be with? When can I be with them again? How much time do I want to work? How does my head work? How much time should I work and then I take a break? I think we're learning it so much at the moment.
Do you think after the pandemic, something will change regarding time management?
I see a lot of things already changing with friends. Some already saying, well, I'm hoping that I won't have to going back to the office every day. I want to do more work from home. I want to save travel time so I can be more efficient and then have more time for something else. So I think it's already happening.
Do you think we will change also this perception of like we are not machine, and if so, still machine need to rest as well?
Well, I think it's very important, the whole point about machines, in a way, because I think we sometimes think that we are too machine-like, because we think about the clock, and if a machine can run 24 hours, why can't I run a little bit more? So we don't really work like that, and we're all different. Everybody knows, like, I can do that many hours, and then maybe I need a break, or I should walk around. We should really try and get to know ourselves and see how that works for us.
How do you think that this time issue is connected to the environmental issues that we are facing all around?
I think it's connected in several different ways, and one is, like, for instance, in the same way that we don't allow ourselves to recover, we don't allow nature to recover. We plant fields more often than we should do. There's all sorts of chemical substances and feeds, and there's all sorts of material available to make animals grow faster on farms. We don't want to wait anymore, so we're just kind of pushing it and exhausting the whole system at the same time. And just the soil needs to recover, and so we can't just get faster and faster and faster, because there are sort of natural seasons, and there's a limit to how far we can push it.
Something good out of this crisis regarding time?
Well, the pandemic and the crisis of time, but it's one of the symptoms that we're going through at the moment. And in a way, it's all terrible about what's happening, but there's always things to be learned. We should at least hold on to that and see, okay, my perception of time has changed, and in the future, I want to spend more time on this, for instance. And so in a way, it's also an opportunity. And of course, talking about the environment, there's so many studies now saying, well, we've ended up in this situation because we're treating nature so badly, and it's all a message. It's all telling us something.
The whole system makes you believe that your time doesn't value. It has no value. Like you sell your time, but at the same time, it has no value. If they don't respect your time, they don't respect your life.
Yeah, in a way, that's what it is. Time is our life, and once time's gone, it's gone. And the problem, of course, in a globalized world is you can get, it's a lot of the time it's about buying time and swapping time and selling your time. And at the moment, with a globalized economy, sometimes you can get time cheaper somewhere else, in a way. If you look at it as a product, so you say, well, in a factory in Bangladesh, I'm getting 3 times as much, and And of course, that makes it really hard for workers and trade unions to fight. I can see it's a really difficult struggle, but I think it's something that has to be done. We need to have a certain amount of control, and we need to have a certain amount of basic rules. And nobody should be told to work 18 hours a day.
Thank you, Cosima, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for watching the film.
Essa foi Cosima Dannoritzer, aqui na Mostra Ecofalante 2020. Fique ligado, ainda tem muito mais papo de cinema por aí.